Good evening, folks, and welcome to another episode of the Arca Racing Podcast. I'm glad to be back for 2022. Obviously, we had our Daytona test episodes a couple weeks ago, but we're back now full time. We got all the races coming up. Our very first Arca sanctioned race of the season is next Tuesday. It's the Arca East at New Smyrna. I forgot the name of the race, but you guys know. I'm sure if you guys look it up, you guys will be able to find out what it is. Well, that was a botch. I'm your host of the Arca Racing Podcast, Colby Evans. Follow me at Start and Park Car on Twitter. Of course, follow Arca Racing Series on Twitter. And, of course, follow the man, Brad Smith, on Twitter as well. All links down in the description. There's a little intro. Let's get right into the show. The Arca East at New Smyrna. The biggest question of the topic of the big topic of discussion is the field size. What kind of field, what would we see at this race? It didn't look good back in January. You know, a couple of guys in the chat and I were discussing that we may be lucky to get 10 cars for this race. It didn't look like that we were having that many cars for this race. And judging by all reports, it looked like we were only going to have about 10, maybe 12 cars for this said race, and possibly a lot of starting parks being added later. Now, this race is broadcasted on the Flow Racing Network. I don't believe this is being broadcast. Can someone correct me in the chat? Is this being broadcasted on FS1 or FS2, or is this on Flow or just on Flow Racing? I'm not for sure on that. Zoom in a little bit. There we go. But either way, the field size, I would say they would not want less than 10. But I've heard rumblings of a good maybe 16 to even a 20-car field. And we'll go over some news and notes that I saw that maybe kind of gave us a little inkling of what we may see. Now, I did see on the post in the Arca Racing group on Facebook. By the way, if you guys are ever interested, I think it's an open group. If you guys are ever on Arca Racing, whoever's on Facebook still, if you want to join the Arca Racing Facebook page, it's kind of a fun page where you see a lot of fun Arca Racing history, and you get to talk to a bunch of old school guys who raced in Arca in the early 2000s are on that page. So I'd recommend you guys check that out. But I did see someone ask a question there. On there about the Arca East entry list. And one of the comments that I feel like may have gotten overlooked was a person from Visconti Motorsports commenting on it. Now, I have not seen the post, so it may have been taken down. But I'm not going to name said crew guy, but it was from Visconti Motorsports, and it said that they will have 20 cars. The question I now have is, where are we getting 20 cars from? Because we got our full-time entries, obviously. Brad, for anyone who's wondering, Brad is more than likely going to be there. Crew member Jason Reynolds said to a couple of people, and I even asked him, is Brad going to enter the East race? He said more than likely. That's not confirmation that Brad will run that race, but it's more than likely Brad will do that race to get an extra car and get some extra money. As for Andy Hillenberg, as you guys saw, the entry list I've seen, Andy will not have 1, not 2, not 3, not 4. Andy will have 5 entries. Andy will have 5 entries at New Smyrna. So, wow, huge thing. So that's pretty cool. Andy have 5 entries. And the cool part is it was an inside source from Fast Track Racing. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you guys the drivers. I thought I would at least tell you how many cars he's bringing, but I cannot tell you the drivers. We will have to wait for the entry list to find out because I don't want to give away any spoilers. I'll just say he's bringing 5 cars. Yeah, so that's here. That brings up another thing I want to discuss on the last episode is I discussed Sammy Smith. And a lot of you guys said that he wasn't running. The one thing, though, that pointed to, and he's still on the Wikipedia page for the Arca East Series. And the one thing that I wanted to get is that last year, Mark Christie said in an interview with Front Stretch, they interviewed Sammy Smith after his championship win. And he said regarding in his 2022 plans that more than likely he will run Arca East again. So it is possible that despite them not running for the championship in the main series, that they will run for the Arca East Championship. Now, we have not seen a confirmation of that, and that article was way back in September of last year. I think it would be nice, so if we did have an entry like the Gibbs car, and we have the entry list with the Gibbs car, that would be nice. And from what I'm seeing in the chat, apparently they said that the top 3 from last season will be there. Plus, Mason Diaz will run as well. Again, this is all great news to see. Where does it point for Max Gutierrez? Maybe the Daytona test told us more than we actually realized. Gutierrez tested the 32 for the Rhett Jones team. I keep forgetting that name. The Rhett Jones team. And could that have been an inkling of what he's going to be doing this season? Running just the 7 races in the East schedule, along with the 3 races with with his teammate Amber Balkin. I could see that happening as well. How many full-time entries would that put us up to? We would have Steve Austin, Daniel Dye, Leland Honeyman, Taylor Gray, Stephanie Moyer, Sammy Smith, Caleb Costner, and then the 74 car, which is not, of course, a full-time driver car, but it is a full-time car with multiple drivers. I just think that gives us a good set of cars for this season, and you'll have your cars that'll come and go throughout the year. I did know in the chat that Gutierrez will be running the Daytona Arca race, so that does give an inkling of what Gutierrez might be doing this year. It could be full-time East Series plus part-time Arca. So I would love that. I think Gutierrez didn't perform greatly last season. Even the win that he did get at New Smyrna last year, I was actually at that race personally. And I could go on a rant about that race. The official and the flags for that race, with all due respect to Max Gutierrez, I was at that New Smyrna race. Sammy Smith got screwed. Theoretically, he should have won that race. That's just my personal opinion. That Sammy Smith should have won that race, and the 18 would have swept the entire season of Arca East in 2021. But I think it's a good lineup. My pick for the East Championship, and also, like I said, guys, it still says that Daniel Dye is running for the East Championship. Again, I could see that also, because outside of the 20 main Arca races, it's only an extra 4 races. Theoretically, for a team like GMS and with a budget of Daniel Dye, is it really out of the realm of possibility that Daniel Dye could be going for both championships? I would think that'd be pretty cool. I think that would honestly be really, really cool if we had a guy like Daniel Dye running for both championships in 2022. In terms of other cars, I got a funny in the chat from Abnormally Disturbed. Any truth to Brad Smith taking over for Kyle Busch at the end of the year? Oh boy, I wish. I think if Brad ever got the chance in a real car, he probably would show that he's not just some guy out there running race cars. Brad Smith is not a person who drives race cars. Brad Smith is a race car driver. He's just never really gotten the chance. Yeah, so and yes, Sir Relkstein, I guess I theoretically can confirm that Willie Mullins the last couple years has run the Daytona and New Smyrna races. Willie will be driving his own car. I believe Willie is bringing his own car with one of Andy's numbers. I believe they're doing that deal again like Willie has done in the past. It makes it easier for Andy and obviously makes it easier for Willie, I assume. But So actually, the cool part is that Sir Relkstein in the chat actually just sent me a link confirming some drivers for 2022. So that's kind of cool. If I could just find us in here. And apparently, yes, it says that Sammy Smith, Gutierrez, and Taylor Gray. So does that confirm Sammy Smith for 2022? I hope so. I hope so. Because I think that would bring another competitive team in. I mean, that'd be kind of cool seeing Daniel Dye. That would actually pretty much, I would say, for anyone who's saying that Taylor Gray is going to run away with the championship, well, look at that. We just got Sammy Smith involved, and we got Daniel Dye involved. You're right, though, in the chat. It does not confirm Daniel Dye, so who knows? Maybe Wikipedia is just messing with us. I mean, we've always known Wikipedia has been the most trusted source, obviously. But I really hope that's true. It'd be nice to get another competitive car in and at least have, how you would say, 3 drivers in contention for the Drivers' Championship. Who would finish 4th and 5th? Your best guess is mine. I would say the battle for 4th in the Drivers' Championship would either go to Leland, probably would go to Leland, and then 5th, I feel like 5th would be a close battle between Moyer and Austin, and then Costner would be right behind him. That's kind of my prediction. Yeah, Relkstein in the chat. I know, never really trust Wikipedia. I just hope that's true. I really hope it is, because I'd love to see Daniel Dye go for 2 championships. I think we'd all love to see that. I don't know who would not be for that. Who wouldn't be for Daniel Dye going for both Arca titles and making history? And I hope they do. That would be history, winning 2 Arca championships in the same year. And it's really, in terms of sponsorship, it's not out of the realm of possibility at all. On the Arca Reddit post, by the way, just a little bit of shout out. I know Reddit sometimes can be a little rough. The Arca Reddit page, we're all a family on there. We're a lot of fun. If you are a fan of Arca, join the Arca Reddit page. It's a lot of fun. It's all about Arca. No hate, no nothing. Just about Arca, and we all have a good time. So if you're an Arca fan, get on Arca Reddit. If you want to find out the news, that's just a little shout out for me. I like Arca Reddit. I've met a lot of fun people on there. I did get a possible entry list for New Smyrna. Now, their article only mentions 15 drivers. But again, a representative from Visconti said 20. So where are we getting those extra 5 cars? Now, I hope that representative from Visconti is correct. I hope we are getting 20 cars. I mean, that'd even be even more than last year. And the cars that I could see being those 5, maybe not all 5, but I could see the 87 of Chuck Buchanan Jr. They've run New Smyrna the last couple years, even though last year they crashed. Unfortunately, in qualifying, the 87 blew a right front tire. You couldn't really help that. It wasn't Chuck's fault. Stuff happens. So I could see the 87 doing that race. Anyone else in the chat? Who else could you see maybe doing the race to get us up to 20? I could see Wayne. I could see the 06 of Peterson showing up. Man, I don't know who else. But they did give me some pretty cool entries in this Arca Reddit post I will go over. Guys I'd never even personally heard of. Looks like the 42 will be Christian Rose. I have heard of him, but I wanted to see the 49, Ashton Higgins. I personally have never heard of Ashton Higgins. If somebody in the chat could be there, could tell me who he is, I'll give him a shout out on here. I personally don't know him, sadly. I'm not familiar with the lower car scene, unfortunately. So if anyone knows who he is, shoot me in the chat real quick and I'll give him a shout out because, hey, thanks for entering. We always love new entries in this series. And the 60 of Daniel Escoto. I hope I pronounced his last name correctly. So cool to see 2 new entries with 2 brand new drivers. And that shows you that, man, the Arca E series, it's not doing amazing, but we're still bringing in a couple of new drivers. And New Smyrna is a very fun track. Late model circuit runs there a lot. So does the modified circuit. It's a good track to make your debut on. Apparently in the chat that Ashton Higgins is a late model driver, potentially associated with a driver's edge development team. Cool. And the 60 team is the Josh Williams team. Yeah, I should have figured that. Josh Williams owns the number 60 in Arca. So I should have figured that out. Cool that Josh is still keeping his Arca team going after all these years of just doing part-time and a lot of inactivity as well. Apparently in the chat, Steve Austin has said that Carson Cobbville, Travis's son, will run. Great. Could it be for the Bruce Cook entry again? Hopefully. Maybe Bruce Cook will have 2 cars again. Hopefully it's not that GMS car they ran last year. I was at that race last year, and the 41 sounded like a bomb going off every time it would go by. The engine, the ignition system, something in that car was not right. And it was kind of the funniest thing that every lap it would go by, boom, every lap would go by, boom, the engine something would hear a thump every time. So I hope that Carson runs. Now, again, that's not confirmation by Steve Austin, but it's possible that Carson might run because we did see him run last year. Now, who else would run? I'm not sure. Will we see a Rev Racing entry? Remains to be seen. I would love to see Raja go again. I mean, he did test there in the 44 Xfinity car. I would love to see Raja run again. I mean, theoretically, you could bring out his Daytona backup car. Theoretically, you could get his backup car for Daytona. Or I'm assuming Rev will probably have one backup car for the 2 cars. Or they will have a backup car for each car. And run the backup car at New Smyrna. It might not be the best car they have, but run it anyway and see how Raja does. I would love to see Raja get a better shot at New Smyrna after we saw him get radiator issues last year and unfortunately finish like 12 laps down. So that'd be good. So right now we're looking at supposedly 15 to 20 entries. 15 is about where we were last year in terms of this race. And again, New Smyrna is a short track. So having only 15 to 20 races would make 20 cars on a track this small really doesn't make this field look as small as it is, because a lot of 20-car fields do race at New Smyrna. Unless you're, the Wheel and Modified series, and I think the Wheel and Modified race for New Smyrna is over what? 20 cars, 25 cars. I haven't looked at that entry list yet. We see right here in the chat again, apparently Isabella Robusto. I do know she is a Rev Racing driver. Maybe she'll run New Smyrna. Either way, I hope we see Rev Racing there. Again, it'd be nice to see more competitive cars show up. Obviously, I've already mentioned Wayne, the white Chevrolet. We've seen that car pretty much. I don't know what other track that white Chevrolet could run at, personally, that car. And for anyone who's actually curious about the white Chevrolet, it is actually let's hear, they said it was a Ronnie Hopkins chassis. Man, I wish, here, I'm going to pull up my phone real quick while trying to talk to you guys, because I got a friend of mine who likes to search up these chassis stuff, and he actually got me the actual history behind where is it? Oh, yes, here it is. The white 06 is apparently Chip Ganassi Racing 211. So, yeah, how about that? Apparently, I hope that is correct, because it was my friend Steven sent me that apparently the white 06 car for Peterson is Chip Ganassi Racing 211. Ran with David Stremme in 2006. So that's kind of cool. That shows you how long that car's been going, man. So Wayne's taken a plate car and ran it at short tracks, dirt tracks. Again, if you don't love Wayne Peterson, if you're not a fan of the Peterson Racing team, I really don't understand why you're watching this sport. You can't be a fan of Arca and not respect Wayne Peterson. I think Rule number one of being an Arca racing fan is respecting Wayne Peterson and Brad Smith. And if you don't, go away. You're not an Arca fan. I don't care. Because that tells me you've only been watching Arca for a couple years. You got to watch Arca for years and years to know why a lot of Arca fans, even a lot of the younger fans like me, respect Wayne and Brad so much. And I'm not just saying that because I've worked for them. It's because the passion and the blood and the sweat and the real tears they've given to that sport. Sir Welkstein in the chat, yes, Brad, he will be starting parking to save the car for Daytona if he runs. I can confirm from what they said that I believe I'm going to look up. I was chatting with the guy again. I'm not going to name his name, and I can't name any drivers, but I do believe that he said, I asked him, are any of those 5 cars running Daytona? And the interesting that he told me is that they won't. Is it possible that Andy Hillenberg is bringing 9 cars to Daytona for New Smyrna and Daytona? Jesus, that is a lot of trailers. But from what that associate told me at Fast Track Racing, that none of those 5 cars will be ran at Daytona. Now, is that true? It'd be interesting if it is. Andy Hillenberg bringing 9 cars. But again, remember, that race is Tuesday. I believe Arca hauler parking is either Thursday night or Friday. And Fast Track Racing Enterprises is in North Carolina. It's not a huge drive from Daytona Beach to North Carolina. It's a long drive, but not an awful drive. I mean, you can get the drive done in one day, so it's possible that, they could do the race on Tuesday, with the 5 cars, go all the way back to Daytona, go all the way back to North Carolina, and then come all the way back with the other 4. It's possible that they could do that. What also wouldn't shock me is we've seen this in the past. It would not shock me if Brad has his car transferred by Fast Track Racing. We have seen Brad have his car being transported by the Fast Track Racing team. I could see that happening for Daytona, or at least not for Daytona, but for New Smyrna. I could see that happening too. Steve also in the chat, Andy doesn't have that many cars. Actually, surprisingly, Andy Hillenberg has more cars than people think he does. If you guys have seen any pictures of Andy's race shop, people think Andy Hillenberg's only got about 5 or 6 cars. He's got a lot of cars. There's only probably about 5 to 6 that are race ready. Now, but Andy has, Sir Ruxton, 20 cars in his shop. I don't know if he's got 20, but I know he's got a lot. It's not like Andy Hillenberg is short on equipment all the time. Most of the time he is, but not all the time. It's just the one thing that's always held Andy back is engines. Obviously, we've seen the cost to get the Ilmore engine and get it repaired is just, in my opinion, a little steep for Arca teams. $45,000 to get this engine repaired. That's in my opinion, that's like another at least a 30,000 more than I think it should be. But then again, I don't know engine costs, so I really have no room to talk about that. But yeah, I think that's one of the things that holds back Andy Hillenberg is that even when he gets an Ilmore, it's not a top tier Ilmore that per se like a GMS, a Gibbs, a Venerini would have in their car. So that sucks. Steve Austin in the chat, I've been at a shop all the time and done for his driving school. I'm not doubting you have. I haven't seen any recent pictures, so you're probably right. Again, the last Andy Hillenberg shop picture I personally saw was 2019. A crew member who works at JD Motorsports sent that picture to me. And so I could be wrong because I haven't seen a shop picture in a couple years. But yeah, so does that give a line to an entry list of how many cars? If you guys are interested, I've been shouting it out a couple of times. If you go to the arcaracing.com website, you can find the competitor site, and you can actually find the legit entry blank for this race. In case you guys are wondering, it's not the best, but first place with all contingency sponsors and awards is $11,100. Second place is $4,600, and third place, is $3,550. So that's the top three. That's the top three purse money for the new Smyrna race. Is it good? Not really. But is that expected out of the Arca series? Yes. That's not meant to crap on the series. It's just people think these payouts are crap when in reality the payouts have been like this for a long time. The problem is that it hasn't been released until about the last couple years is the thing. Arca payouts have been like this forever. We just haven't had them public. In case you guys are wondering, if we did get exactly 20 cars, last place would be $1,020. If you guys are curious, if we got exactly 20 cars, last place would be $1,020. And if we got only 15 cars, 15th place pays $1,175. If you guys are also wondering if we get more than 20 cars, if you guys are on all 20 cars, 21st on back gets just $1,000. So if you guys are just curious on how much these teams are getting, last place overall, the lowest purse in that new Smyrna race is $1,000. The highest winning purse is $11,100. It does say that first place is only $5,000. That's without the contingency sponsor awards. You know, those little tiny stickers in front of the numbers. All those little sponsors represents an award that Arca gives out at the end of every race, like Chevy Top Performer, Bounty Rookie of the Race, you know, stuff like that. And the awards add up. So pretty much it's telling you that the most money an Arca East team could take home from New Smyrna is about $11,000. So that's kind of cool. Again, it's something I wish NASCAR would do because I think it'd be kind of cool. I think that'd be kind of cool if NASCAR released their payouts again. But obviously, you know, I understand why. But it would be really cool if they did. But we all understand why they don't anymore. It's just, it kind of sucks because as a young race fan, it was always cool to see what kind of money these teams were making from week to week. That's just my personal opinion again. For people in the chat, we got 6 people with me right now. Thank you again, guys, for joining. I got 6 people watching, only 3 likes. So the other 3, if you could hit the like button, I'd appreciate that. Well, we only got 5 now, so only 5 people left. Still, if you guys could like, I'd appreciate it. So as far as I mentioned, right now, it looks like Sammy Smith is confirmed for a full year. And of course, we know Taylor Gray is. But I want you guys to know, who is your championship predictions? And who do you guys think will win? Who do you guys think will win, you know, the races this season? Do you guys think we'll see a surprise winner? I personally would never sleep on Leland Honeyman. I think Leland could pull off a win. You know, they got good sponsorship. I think they have enough money to be able to get a good Ilmore. And on the short tracks, especially the 1 and 5 flags, Leland has run 5 flags quite a bit. And I would not be shocked if 5 flags could be the track that we would see Leland either contend or be really close to getting that win. And I think we can all agree that we hope that come Nashville, we see Mason Mingus back driving with Andy Hillenberg and hopefully getting that elusive win that they so richly deserve. In the chat, Ralkstein, I can see Gutierrez winning. I could, but outside of that win, you know, I was at the race. Gutierrez didn't run particularly great in that race. He was about 4th or 5th the whole race. He just kind of got lucky on the restart. I'm not calling his win a fluke by any means. He was in the right place at the right time, and he made a great move, and it was an amazing finish. But it's not like he didn't have the best car. I don't even think he had the second best car in that race. The first and the second best cars in that race were Sammy Smith and Taylor Gray. Heck, I'd even say the 42 of Parker Retzlaff was the third best car in that race. Sorry, excuse me again. Could I see Gutierrez winning? That'd just be really hard to see. I don't know about that. Would he come close? Yes. Joseph Burgess in the chat. Taylor Gray. I think we can easily say Taylor Gray will probably win a race this season. Probably not clean, but Taylor Gray will probably win a race this season. Taylor is actually a pretty good talent. When he races clean, Taylor is a really good natural talent. Heck, I would even go so far as to say that I could see Taylor doing better than Tanner. And that's kind of a wild opinion. Some people might not agree with that, but I actually could see Taylor Gray doing better than Tanner. As long as he doesn't film himself driving at Daytona again, he'll be just fine. For anyone who still remembers that, I love you. But of course, we have multiple cars running part-time East this season, obviously at the 3 races that include the main Arca series. So it does beg the question. We have our field here for this race. A lot of these entries are debuting entries, and a lot of teams who are also going to run the Daytona race. It's good. We're hearing as low as only 15 and as high as 20 cars. That's okay. But moving forward, what are we going to have fields like at Five Flags Speedway at Pensacola and fields like at Nashville? I don't want to see 13 cars again. But the reality is we probably will. Now, again, the reason why I'm not mentioning Dover, and I really wish I could post a picture of it, is, as you guys might know, I've always hyped up that Dover race as one of the highest paying races of the year, which it is. Weird. For some weird reason, the Dover East race is one of the best paying ARCA races for the year. 10th place pays like $6,000. And by ARCA standards, that's amazing. Last place is like $3,400, which again, by ARCA standards, is amazing. That's like 3 races worth and 1. So I don't think we would have a problem getting at least a 20-car field for that ARCA East race. A lot of main ARCA teams would run that race as well because Dover is an amazing track to get experience on. Hopefully General Tire will bring the right tire this time, because for anyone who was with me watching the Dover East race last year, what a crash fest thanks to the tires. So hopefully General Tire can get a better tire for next season. But it does make me a little concerned after New Smyrna, the 2 races at Five Flags and Nashville. What will the fields be like? What do you guys think? We know Andy will more than likely run 2 to 3 full-time entries. Obviously, Stephanie's a full-time, full race probably as well, full race season, with the 10 and the 12 doing probably start in parks full-time. I could see that happening too. I don't know who else. I could see him calling Wayne, asking Wayne to come in and bring the car in, just to at least say they have another car in the field. Dover isn't exactly, well, not Dover. Five Flags is not really close to Michigan. I could see Brad maybe doing Nashville, because from Michigan to Nashville, it's not the farthest drive in the world. It's not a fun drive, but it's not the farthest drive. So maybe Brad would show up at those 2 races. Again, we're just going to have to wait and see. I think we'll be fine with the New Smyrna race. But obviously, I think the other 2 races coming up for Arca East will be definite struggles. And I hope it's not worse than 13 of what we saw last year. I hope it's not that. But unfortunately, it looks like we might be either just at 13 again or maybe even less. See, we're at 35 minutes. Last portion of the show. Picks. So, of all the entries we have right now that are confirmed, who's your guys' pick? For all 8 people in the chat, who's your guys' pick for New Smyrna? My personal pick, if he's in the field, Sammy Smith. I just think with the experience and the Joe Gibbs car, you can't go wrong with Sammy Smith. So for everyone in the chat, who's your pick? Mine is Sammy Smith. I want to see some unique picks in the chat. Oh, let's look at the schedule here real quick. Okay, I do have the right tracks. I just wanted to be sure about that. Fortunately, not seeing any in the chat. I wish we were, but I'm assuming most of them are probably picking Sammy Smith as well. Obviously, again, for everyone who doesn't have Flow Racing, it's $150 for the year. You don't pay the $150 up front. Maybe that's the one thing I wish Flow Racing would clarify. You're not paying the $150 up front. For anyone who's always wondered, you're not doing that. You're paying about $1,250 a month, which adds up to said $150. Sorry, I'm getting parched. Said $150. So that's kind of where the math goes. You're not paying $150 straight up, and you can cancel at any time. So if you guys want to just pay the $12 to watch this race, you can watch the race, watch Daytona, and then simply cancel at the end of the month. Yeah, you'll have to pay the $12.50, but if you don't want to watch the rest of the Arca season, well, there you go. So if you guys want to do that, there's your loophole. I bought the whole season, obviously, the full season package, because to be able to do the Arca Racing podcast, I got to watch every race. So I kind of had no choice there. So I had to buy the $150 package, but it's for you guys because I love you guys. You know I do. But anyway, we went over the entry list. We went over championship picks. Seeing a lot of Sammy Smith and Taylor Gray wins in the chat. I think you guys are pretty much right. I'll even go as far as if he is in the field, if Daniel Dye is in the field, I'll put him as my dark horse. I'll put him as my dark horse pick. And I really hope the representative from, Visconti is correct. I think a 20-car field would be more than good enough for Arca East standards at a track that's less than a half mile. So I'm excited. I hope you guys are. Next Tuesday, follow me with live tweet reactions on the Start and Park account. We'll be there right next week, next Wednesday. Wednesday, covering the East Race review with also our Daytona preview and predictions and championship picks. And I hope you guys tune in with me there, actually. I do have one more announcement for you guys. For anyone who has been with me on the account for a long time, you guys may have noticed at the end of last season, I introduced a new series called Backmarker Battles. I am changing that. Backmarker Battles is not going away. If you guys are curious, Backmarker Battles goes over the inner battles between said series. For instance, the top 20 Xfinity bonus battle. The top 20 full-time Xfinity teams at the end of the year get a big bonus. Same goes for truck. And for Cup, it's the top 25 cars, chartered entries, get a $1 million bonus at the end of the year. I track that battle for every single race. Same goes for owner point battles when it comes to making the race. And same goes for Arca, as the top 20 in owners points are the ones who receive a payout or a payment bonus at the end of the year as well. So if you guys are interested, the Backmarker Battles videos are still on YouTube. I still got all 4 on my channel if you guys want to check that out in my timeline. You just got to scroll down a little bit. But that will be turned into a blog. And either later this week or early next week, I will post something on my social media about said blog, and I hope you guys join me there. That way you guys don't have to hear me rant about it for 40 minutes, and then you can instead just read it. I think we can all agree that's way more fun. So, and I also would like to announce that there might be another podcast coming for another series. And it has nothing to do with stock car racing. Just a rumor right now. I'm putting some things together, but that's just a little fun tidbit I'd like to tell you guys too. But anyway, Backmarker Battles blog, no longer a YouTube show. It's now a blog. We'll get that started really, really soon, possibly within the next couple of days. I hope you guys tune into that. Thank you guys again for so much for joining me in the Arca Racing podcast. The fact that we had 6, at most, we had 11 people live tonight. I love you guys. The support is just, I cannot thank you enough. You're making my dreams come true. We'll see y'all next Wednesday, and you guys have a good rest of your night. So long, guys.